certain things in life, I don't know, makes you believe in certain things that you can't really quantify with science. Like karma, for example. I believe the past couple of days I've racked up at least a karma point. And the universe has smiled upon me, I believe, for my good works. And Woz Lee has posted another video, and oh my god, it's brilliant. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And I didn't realize that there was all this hullabaloo going around Woz Lee. Because I don't really look at Twitter. Every once in a while I'll see something and I'll decide that I want to go and make a comment about it. Or I'll turn on Twitter and I'll be on that here's everybody's Twitter feed thing, and something will catch my eye and I'll make a comment on it. But I don't sit and scroll through Twitter because it's shit. And I don't like wading through shit because it smells bad. So, you know, I usually, as a lot of you know, I only really ever interact with shit that is mentioning me. You know, if somebody's talking to me, I talk back. So, you know, but like apparently everybody has under the belief that Woz has somehow changed. It seems very odd to me after having watched the video. I don't understand it. Woz seems pretty much exactly the fucking same to me. I don't see any difference. Somebody in his comments said that something to the effect of everybody's pissed off at him because he used to be an ally and now he's become an enemy. And I'm like, you're very confused as to what Woz has done the entirety of the time that Woz has had his channel. He's pretty much just kind of talked shit on whatever he thought was fucked up. No matter who it was, really. Like, so, I don't know. I don't think Woz has ever really chosen sides as such. I don't think that Woz has ever really been a soldier in the culture war. He's always just kind of been on the outside, just kind of lobbing fucking mortars into the mass melee. Like, so, whatever. But, I thought it was brilliant. Yet again, Woz made a video that really made me think. And really made me kind of ponder my own thoughts on things. You know, sometimes I get a thought in my head that never really solidifies, but it still leaves the resonance of a direction for me to kind of choose to go into. And then I kind of follow that direction because it seems best to me at the time. And Woz is amazing at putting words to those kind of just fleeting thoughts that just kind of change my direction. And I thought, again, you know, Woz is like, he's like, I look at Woz almost like he's my conscience. You know what I mean? He kind of keeps me on an even keel. It's been very bad the past couple of years to not have so much Woz. It's very upsetting. So I'm glad that Woz has posted something again, and I hope he continues, because I really enjoy his work. I always think he's extremely insightful. And, you know, he's like Jiminy Cricket. He's Jiminy Lee. Woz Cricket. Whatever you want to say. But, yeah, I love the guy to death. I think he's fantastic. I'm glad he's back doing his thing. And you really should go and check out the new video. He shits on Sargon a lot. And you know, Sargon deserves it. The whole liberalist thing kind of made me look at Sargon a little sideways for a while, and this has kind of opened my eyes a little bit more to Sargon. I'm kind of like, you know, like, and I stopped watching him a long time ago. Like, it's weird. Like, at some point, I kind of, I don't know, it dawned on me that I've done it all before. Like, the whole thing. The guys that do feminism every day, the same shit. It's like the same 5 topics over and over and over again. And it's like, dude, You did this last week. And the video you did yesterday, you also did last week. What in the fuck? Like, you can't just take different people giving the same argument and you giving the same counter argument and go, but it's different people, and have that be any fucking basis for, so it's different content. It isn't. It's the same shit over and over and over again. And it's like, I've done it before. I've done feminism isn't equality, it's supremacy for women. I've done that shit. I've done the wage gap. Google came out with their analysts on whether or not they have a wage gap, and they found out they do. Women make a lot more than men. And I'm like, I've already done that. So I didn't do a video on that because I'm like, I already did that video. Like a year ago. Why am I going to do it again? It's why I've stopped doing a lot of that kind of shit, because it's like, it just doesn't interest me anymore. They keep giving the same argument. There's only so many times I can dispute it, because otherwise it just gets stupid. So that's why I do a lot more geopolitical stuff now, because, it's kind of the same thing over and over again now, but at least, it's a different type of same thing over and over again. And sooner or later I'll get bored with that, but it is election season, so, it is, I think, important for me to kind of point out things going on with all the candidates where I can kind of go, because I like the idea of an informed voting public. I love the idea of that. So I'm doing a lot more political stuff these days, watching the news a lot more, watching a lot more different people. I at one point I used to watch Bering and Undoomed and Sargon and all of them. I used to watch them every single day. I haven't really watched any of them in months now. Every once in a while I'll see a video and I'll be like, I'll check that shit out. Every once in a while I check Bering and kind of catch up, because I just enjoy the guy's content. He's very funny to me. Like people like that, but like I don't really follow everybody anymore. You know what I mean? Because it's always the same shit over and over again. And you gotta be damn entertaining for me to want to watch the same video that I watched you make 50 fucking times. So I totally get what he's saying with a lot of this stuff. And a lot of shit has been covered over by time. It's very cool to watch Woz break down the whole Gamergate thing, because Woz was legitimately there from kind of the start of it. He saw it all, and he's kind of taken the Band-Aid off of the nasty wound that's still there years later, and kind of exposes a lot of how it started and what's going on. And he asked what I believe are some very pertinent questions. And one thing that he kind of alludes to, but doesn't really dive deep into, is the pebble in the pond effect. You throw a pebble in the pond, it causes ripples. And those ripples expand until they hit the edges of the pond, and then they come back. And it turns into this huge, just rippling fucking pile of water. And, it's really interesting to think of what kind of an effect, essentially, all of us, not that I'd really count myself with most of them that had far more influence than I did and were around for a lot longer in the whole thing, but, us that do this sort of thing, that make these kind of commentaries, how much did we actually inflame where we are now? You know what I mean? Like, you get people on a contentious issue, and then you get a lot of people in different various ways, some being very, congenial and respectful and wanting to really have a dialogue and a discussion, and others just wanting to be a prick for the views and shit like that. And you got to wonder how that actually affects the whole thing. How much did YouTube commentary on transgender issues and things of that nature, how much did that inflame the wider scale of it all? People are paying a lot more attention to YouTube. People are paying a lot more attention to political YouTube. So, I think that's a very valid question. I think that's a very interesting topic. I'm not entirely sure where I'm at with it. I've always believed that I have sort of a responsibility to be as definitely accurate as possible. Sometimes I miss the mark, but I do my best, and I always have the opportunity to follow up. Not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things, because people don't generally watch the follow up, But whatever. But yeah, I definitely think that you should be at least a little bit respectful. And again, sometimes that's difficult. And I think that you should have good arguments. Don't have arguments where it's just like, oh, well, you're just this or that. Because that's not an argument. And just teasing and making fun of people isn't always exactly the best way to do it. If that's all you're doing, you're not really doing much of anything. So I always try to offer up some sort of something to go along with the teasing, some sort of perspective. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thought process to think of, but I've always tried to keep myself as what I believe a decent example of what to kind of try and be like as an online presence as possible. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I fully adhere to the lead by example, maxim. That if people see you acting and behaving in a certain way, and they like you, and that could possibly lead them to wanting to act and behave in a similar manner because they like you. So if the example you're setting is bad, you're just spreading bad ways of behavior. If, your behavior is good, then hopefully you kind of spread more good ways of behavior. I acknowledge the fact that people that do things out publicly in the world like this, some people are going to get it in their heads that they are a role model for whatever reason or not. And, I never asked to be a role model. Not many people do. But it happens. And you're a fool if you're just going to sit there and go, well, it's not my fault what everybody else does. Everybody else has their own, free will. They can do whatever they want to do. And some people choose to do one thing and some people choose to do another. And you can't control that, really. But you can at least make the attempt to mitigate whatever damage you might do by trying to convey yourself in a way that's well explained. If you're really trying to not have people attack people online, you got to make it clear at some point that you don't think that that's a good idea to do, or you don't think it's cool when other people do it. Now, from there, it's up to the audience to pick and choose what parts of what you say they decide they're going to listen to. And that doesn't always work in your favor. So therein, I believe, is the thing. But like for example, Bering. Bering has always said, don't fucking harass people. Makes me look bad, makes you look bad, makes the whole thing look bad. Just bad. All around, just bad. Don't do it. Dick thing to do. Says that a lot. And I respect him for that. That's a reasonable position to have. And then you've got Ice Poseidon, who gets on stream for about 5 seconds and says, if anybody finds out where this guy lives, I'm going to go take care of him. Well, that's encouraging your audience to dox, and that's saying that you essentially approve of hunting somebody down and harming them. You know what I mean? Like, that's him actively reinforcing bad behavior in his audience, right? He, as far as I know, and he might have at some point or another, but if he came out and said, I think it's bad to dox people, don't dox people, that shit's bad. Well, it kind of puts the lie to those words when you come out and say, if somebody can find out where this guy lives, I'm going to go take care of him. You know? So you have to also have a level of consistency. And I love Woz for pointing out the inconsistencies in people. And boy, does he rail on Sargon in this video, and I think it's fantastic. He also kind of rails on Medicare in this video, and I think that was also fantastic. I got a lot of things to say about Medicare. I don't particularly like Medicare. I think that it's reasonable that people would think that he's a very entertaining guy, but to me, I don't know. I don't know if it's like the attitude. I don't know if it's like the way his voice just carries to me. It's like, I don't know if it's vocal tonality or what, but it's like everything he says, he can say, I'm going to go get burgers today at Wendy's. And it would come off as this like patronizing, egotistical, smarmy fucking thing. And I don't really like him for that, because everything he says comes off as this smarmy fucking thing. So I don't really like the guy very much, but I can see why people would, because he's got that arrogant fucking smarmy ass thing to him, and people love that shit. So yeah, and I have my moments of arrogance and smarm. And I acknowledge that, but I don't do it all the time. I don't know. He just seems to do it all the time, and I don't know. But I just thought it's great, and I think it's great that Woz is coming back. Like Woz's insight is always very nice to me. It's always very unique. I love it because he's always kind of on the outside looking in. He reminds me a lot of me when I was in high school and not really college, but post-high school days, for me, my college years, not in college. I was always at the parties, and I was always there, but I was never really always involved in all the shit going on, because I just never really sought that sort of thing out, and I'm the type of person where I don't get into a whole hell of a lot of drama a whole lot of the time. So I was always on the outside looking in on shit. And I always knew all the players involved. And I'd always seen all of the situations kind of since their inception. But I was never really involved, so I could always just kind of go, well, this person was wrong here and this person was wrong here. So you're both kind of wrong, so fuck both of you. And that's what Woz is kind of like. And I love that shit. It's fantastic. So, big ups to Woz. I'm glad he's back. I would have loved to have gone through some of the video, but it's an hour long. And honestly, I'm just, the past couple of nights have been really bad for me. I wound up having to pull some pretty fucking late nights. I'm very, 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 very tired. And I had to dig deep yesterday to fucking not be when I was doing that fucking video. So I'm kind of looking for an easy one. I'm kind of just looking to promote Woz because I love the guy to death. And I want him to keep making content because I just fucking love his content so much. It's like, I need it. I need it for all the things I don't know. Because I've been around since Gamergate, technically. If you look back in the old podcasts, we did cover Gamergate. Me and Dennis, we read the article, and we went, well, that's fucking stupid. There have been a lot of women in video games. A lot of them have been the lead. These people are dumb. And then we moved on. Because it's not really more of a subject than that. And that was another thing that Woz brought up in his video. Was that Gamergate, the entirety of it, was kind of fucking stupid. For anybody to have gotten involved in it as much as they did, kind of fucking stupid. And I couldn't agree more. And it makes me laugh because I've been around since then, technically, but I missed it all. Because I thought it was a non-fucking issue. So, much to my surprise, years later I find out, boy, that was a really big issue, wasn't it? So I don't know. it was kind of interesting. I loved it. It was fantastic. So happy he's back. I can't wait for the next video. The next video he's going to talk about is the whole Kraut and Tea thing. And the first video he did on it, I thought was fantastic. It was very, he had a lot of insight into a lot of things that were going on. And now it's like a year later. And apparently the ripples from that pebble hitting the pond have been going on for a year now. So it'll be real interesting to kind of catch up and see what's happened since. So I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Woz is back. Yeah. Back to sword show and tell. Somebody asked me today if I had any Arabic swords. I would love to get one. There's the scimitar. Pretty much the only unique Arabic sword that there is. And there's two different styles of scimitar. There's the really, really thick ones. The Hassan chop, those fucking swords. And I don't know if that's racist. If it is, I'm sorry. It's a cartoon, but whatever. So, there's those, and then there's the thinner ones. The thinner ones, they oftentimes look very cool, but they're more like actual replica than like a stylized piece. I like very stylish pieces. I like ones that every time you see one of the swords, I like there to be something unique about it that makes it, cool, like in some way. Like, I've got dozens of katanas, but they're all kind of different in some way or another. You know what I mean? So, there's that. But the problem with scimitars oftentimes is they're very expensive because they're very bejeweled. They're very decorative. So, gem encrusted type of stuff, even if it's not really actual gems, that shit gets expensive because that's a lot of work. And a lot of these weapons are handmade, but most of them nowadays aren't. And I always like to go handmade with that kind of stuff because there's just a better quality to it. They're better swords, but they're very expensive. So I haven't found one yet in my price range that I really want to put into my collection, because I don't want to just get a shit sword to just kind of be like, yeah, that's my shit scimitar. You know what I mean? And so I want to illustrate what a shit weapon is. As the blades get thicker and thicker, they're either going to get more expensive because they're going to be far more difficult to craft, or the quality goes way down. Let me show you an example of a thick blade with way low quality. The Buster Sword. Those of you who are Final Fantasy nuts may recognize the Buster Sword. Very big, very thick blade, right? I like my Buster Sword because it's from Final Fantasy, not because the blade is particularly good. You can it's stainless steel Pakistani, right? You can kind of see it there. It says stainless steel Pakistani, right? I always move it more towards what I'm looking at than the actual fucking camera for some reason. So it's stainless steel Pakistani, but what it is it's really shitty steel with stainless steel Pakistani coating. You can tell that because there, I don't know how well you can see it, where it's kind of pocked there. That's where the stainless steel coating didn't really exactly take all over. There must have been a bubble or something there. But You know, they just kind of take these things sometimes and they make shitty blades and then they just dip them in the fucking chrome, essentially, is what it is. So, yeah, I got this as a shitty sword because it's a Buster sword, you know. I wanted to have a fucking Buster sword because that's awesome when you're a huge Final Fantasy VII fan, like I am. So I wanted to get a Buster sword. I didn't care about the quality because it was a fucking Buster sword. I just really wanted a Buster sword. But if I'm going to get like a replica of an actual sword that I want to have in my collection as, here's my scimitar, I don't want to get a shitty fucking pocked, you know, Pakistani stainless steel dipped fucking piece of wrought iron. You know, like, so that's why I haven't gotten myself a scimitar yet, but I really, really want one. And, yeah, and there's my Buster sword. I am Cloud Strife with my giant fucking Buster sword. And this thing, I mean, it's you know, you could tell kind of here, you can see the hilt, you can see the tip. It's not really like a legit Buster sword. It's about a third of the thickness of the actual Buster sword, and it's about half the fucking length of the thing. So, you know, Buster swords, like an actual replica of a Buster sword would literally be unwieldable, and this isn't even really wieldable. You know what I mean? It's a very heavy fucking blade, but at least it's kind of carryable. You know, you can hold it and not be like, you know. But yeah, so there you go, Buster sword.